Amen. Thank you, Gabe. Appreciate you, sir. Welcome this morning, everyone. There's certain sounds that I just love. And I know I've told you this before, but that sound always just brings joy to my heart for some reason. I was shopping with my wife yesterday in an antique store. And she looked at this one cabinet and she said, "Hey, that's a really good looking wallet." And I looked at it and the thing was like this big. It was like the size of a briefcase. I'm not sure if that was the one she was pointing at or not. If that's the one I looked at, that's the one I saw. I was like, "Honey, we don't carry certificates for cash anymore." Remember those old bills that were like that big? I think we got to go back to the days of coins just so we can just do this thing. Well, I hope that when we talk about VBS and other things, that's a sound that's a joy to you. It's not something that's a burden to you. I hope that when your alarm clock goes off on Sunday mornings, that it's a joyful sound to you. I get to go to church. I get to be with my family. This is where I want to be on Sundays. I hope it is for you. And I want to invite you to be that, to have that attitude when you come here on Sunday or when you think about VBS, or we think about even something like voting. When we have the opportunity to do this, it is a privilege that we have to do that, and to do so with information, to do so maturely, to do so well, to live wisely. We're going to be seeing today in Titus chapter 2. That includes with how we vote. And so the information packet is available to you. I hope that your desire is that Christ is delighted in your vote. Well, that means voting according to his values, not Pastor John's, not 412 Church, not this candidate or that candidate, but where do these candidates stand on biblical issues? And by the way, when you drop your ballot off here, on the back of your ballot, after you seal it, you sign the bottom of it, do not sign the top of it. The person that you give it to, who's going to drop it off for you, they sign the top of it. So make sure to leave that blank there when you turn that into the drop box. But I hope that that's an opportunity for you. That's something that you look forward to. Oh, it's voting season again. Oh, it's Sunday again. Oh, it's VBS again, because now is an opportunity for me to actually live out my faith. By the way, I've got an offer for you. This is not a bribe. This is just an offer. This is just, if you sign up here in the next couple of weeks to be a small group leader, because God really has laid that upon your heart, come find me, because I want to give you one of these gold coins, because I want you to be praying for one kid who's going to be in your life group, your small group. Because you're going to get the opportunity to share the gospel with them. And I want you to hold on to this until you share the gospel with one of those kids in your life group, and I want you to give it to them. So they remember, not necessarily you, not necessarily VBS, but they hopefully remember what you told them. And years down the road, that's going to have an impact, a return on investment. I hope that's a joy to you, that thought. I get the chance to tell someone about this Jesus that I sing about every Sunday. When's the last time you did that? And was it a joy to you, or was it a burden? Are you ready? Are you equipped? Well, here on Sunday mornings, we've been in the book of Titus. I want to encourage you to go there on the far right side of your Bible. It's kind of on that side of things. Titus is a book that gives us the blueprint for a healthy church. In any area of life where we're growing in something, we're building something, we have to know what the blueprint is, what the instructions are, how big is the building, what are its dimensions, where are the outlets going to go? Anyone ever been in the airport and we're looking for an outlet? And they're all taken? I was in an airport one time. I think it was Seattle Airport. I could be wrong about it. It might have been San Francisco. I finally found one. There's people everywhere. There's a flight that was delayed. I was stuck there. Couldn't find a charging port, and I found this one. I could see it across the room, and I ran over there, and I went to plug it in. It was a sticker. Someone put a sticker on the wall. You got to know where the outlets are. You got to know how the place is to function, right? Well, the book of Titus is one of 3 books that tell us specifically how the church is to function. You want to have a healthy church? You want to know what a church really is? Everyone's got an opinion. Oh, I like this church because the building. I like this church because the music. I like this church because the pastor. I like this church because that pastor's not there. All kinds of different opinions when it comes to church. Well, what actually is a church, and who gets to define those things? What is a family, by the way? We're going to be looking at that next week. And who gets to define what that is? What is a man? What is a woman? What is a family? What is a mom? What is a dad? What are mom and dad supposed to teach their kids? Who gets to define those things? Is that all just up for grabs, or has God given instructions and you just have ignored them so far? Well, when it comes to the topic of the church, these 3 books are the beginning blueprints of what a church is to be. 1 Timothy and Titus are kind of like brother books, and they're telling us a lot of the same information. 1 Timothy is a bit bigger. 2 Timothy is written really to tell you about what a pastor is to be. All 3 of the books have instructions to a pastor. We see that here in Titus many times. But what is a pastor really to be? 2 Timothy's key to that. What is his job? 2 Timothy's key to that. 1 Timothy and Titus here are instructions from an apostle to a pastor in how to lead the church. What is the church supposed to look like? There's certain things that are definitional. You got to have some outlets somewhere, and they can't all be stickers. It's got to have walls. It's got to have a roof. It's got to have lights somewhere. Where you put the lights doesn't really matter, but it needs to have some lights in it. There's certain things that need to be there. And so here in in Titus, you have the introduction. You have the introduction of the author in verse 1, and I want you to see it again, because what we're going to see in chapter 2, this is the working out of this very thing. Titus chapter 1, verse 1 starts like this. Paul, a servant of God and an apostle of Jesus Christ, for the sake of the faith of God's elect and their knowledge of the truth, which accords with godliness. You notice that there? Knowledge, faith, which accords with action, godliness, character. It builds into something. Paul's ministry, his life, he recognized was a gift from God, meant to build something up and other people. It wasn't just so, hey, cool, I'm in the club, check out there, got my ticket punched, I got my fire insurance, and now I'm good. His life was a calling to build something up into other people. And so he couldn't be there on the island of Crete, and so he sends Titus there, and he says there in chapter 1, verse 5, this is why I left you in Crete. Notice the two things. To put what remains into order. So there's a blueprint to follow. There's instructions to build something. And you, Pastor Titus, are to build it there. And then you're supposed to appoint supervisors. The word there is elders, presbyteros. There's also other titles that are used for them. Overseers, managers, shepherds. We use the term pastor in our context. That's what it's referring to. And so in chapter 1, you have the qualifications, the instructions, the duties, the responsibilities of the leaders who oversee this thing that is to be put into order. Well, what does that look like? Well, again, what chairs you have doesn't matter. Where the lights are doesn't matter. But there is a culture that matters. There's a vibe to the Christian community that matters. And these elders are to be able and capable and willing to teach it. So in chapter 2, you have the demographic instructions, the basic instructions of a pastor. It's chapter 2, verse 1. But as for you, in contrast to other people that are teaching wrong things, and your job as a pastor is to rebuke them, then you are to teach the church the right things. And so it starts, as for you, that's Titus, teach what accords with sound doctrine. Doctrine is not just knowledge, and it's not just faith, but it's also conduct. That's what all of chapter 2 is about. And so Paul then goes through some very short, stereotypical, general instructions to different groups of people within the Christian church. And all fit in this somewhere. All of us are either older or younger. Who's older? Thanks for your honesty. Appreciate that. Who's younger? That's relative. And these words here, older and younger, are not meant to communicate age. It's not like, okay, you're over the hill at 40. That's not what it's talking about. Okay, you're in that category at this age. No. It refers to maturity and immaturity, to an experienced believer and an inexperienced believer. You could use the word older and younger, but it's really those that have grown up and those who haven't. Those that need to learn something and those that have attained something. What are they supposed to be? What are we building up into? What are we growing up into? There's instructions for church leaders we're going to see again today. And then next week we're going to be looking at family, God's design for the family. And then we'll get back to the topic of servants. Those who are under someone else's authority, there's instructions for us too. All of us are under someone's authority in some aspect of life. And so how are we expected to function under that authority in life, in society, in civil situations, at home? All those sorts of things. We have instructions for that. All of us are to grow in the grace and knowledge of the Lord Jesus Christ, to grow up into something. And that's why maybe you've noticed you were missing some of our friends today, because about 100 of them are up at our ladies' retreat up near Arrowhead Lake right now. And that's a picture that was sent yesterday of that group. I'm so grateful that they get to be there. Number one, for their sake. As they grow, as they spend time together thinking and dwelling upon important things, what do they need to be as Christian women? What do we need to grow up into? I'm grateful for their sake, but you know what? I'm also grateful for our sake. Because while we're missing them today, as they grow, they will come back and bless you even more. The question, however, is, will you bless them even more from what you're learning right now, from what you're dwelling upon, how you're growing up even just this morning? Are we growing up? Are we maturing as Christians, or are we just kind of sitting here doing the Jesus thing day after day? Is it really a joy, or is it just kind of a dud? Like, it's just what we do. Again, knowledge of Jesus and faith in Jesus must result in obedience. That's what this whole book is about. It's not just for the faith of God's people. It's not just for their knowledge of the truth, but it's for what accords with godliness. That's literally verse 1. And the whole book's about that. God has not only given us a message to receive, but he's given us a life to live, and it looks like something. He's given his instructions. You want a healthy church? It looks like something. You want a healthy church? You need healthy leaders. You want a healthy church? You got to have healthy men. You want a healthy church? You got to have healthy women. You got to have healthy parents. You got to have healthy Christians, or you'll never have a healthy church. It's a pastor's job to teach it. It's the church's job to grow up. It's a parent's job to teach it. It's their children's job to grow up. It's a sad thing when someone gets older, but they don't grow up. We as Christians are to grow up. And so today, we're going back to the instructions for Christian men. Last week, we were looking at chapter 2, verse 3 through 5, God's blueprint for Christian women. And we noticed there that the instructions to the older women and the younger women are intimately connected. The older women are to have these character qualities. They are to be reverent in behavior, verse 3, not slanderers or slaves to much wine, drunkards. They are to be able to teach what is good and so train, sophronezo, to equip someone to sophos means wisdom, Sophia means wisdom, to equip someone to live and act and think well. Mature Christian women are to have character such that they're able then to teach others to grow up into that character, to sophronezo, to train, to equip the younger ladies likewise to love their husbands and their children, to be self-controlled, pure, home builders, kind, submissive to their own husbands, so that the word of God may not be reviled. And then verse 6, you'll notice something. Likewise, train the young men. It's not just your job, and it's not just your job to grow up. It's not just your job to grow up. It's all of our jobs. Somewhere in chapter 2, we all fit into the scheme. We are all supposed to grow up. And what you have here in these first few verses are these kind of the general instructions. These are things that this group tends to need to really focus on. And maybe you've noticed verse 6 in the past, and you're like, why is the instruction to the young men so short? It says there, likewise, train the young men, or urge the young men to be self-controlled. You know why the instructions are so short? Because men tend to need very clear, very specific instructions. Because we're different. Ladies, we're different. You know that, right? Ladies, you're better than us in some things. We're better than you in something. We're different. We're not lesser or inferior to one. We're just different. All day long, there's been a lot of talk from this part of the room. First service, second service, we are different. And so sometimes you look at those instructions like, man, there's a whole lot more instructions to the young ladies than the young men. Yes, but the instructions to the young men are not simple. They're not shallow. They're straightforward, they're clear. And frankly, that's what young men really need. Clear, direct instructions. Because sometimes we are ridiculous. Like, I love tools. And you can drive a nail with a pair of pliers. I've done it. It doesn't work well, but you can do it. You can drive a nail with a crescent wrench. You can do it. I've done it. It doesn't work well. Everyone knows any schmuck can drive a nail with a hammer, right? Like, okay, and I know it works, but we're men. Right? We got to do better than this. You can drive a nail with that, sure. But it's better to drive a nail with this. That's how you drive a nail. But you know what? It might even be cooler to drive a nail with this. I can split wood and drive a nail. It's like, I can do it. But you know what? That will drive a nail. It might also like split the wall in half. You might do more damage than good, but you'll look epic doing it, right? Sometimes men are just ridiculous. We all want to be that guy that people look up to, that guy that people are like, awesome, man. That's why the instructions are very simple. Teach the young men to have self-control. Older men are to teach young men to have the quality that they are to have. Back in chapter 2, verse 1, you have the pastor's instruction. Teach these things. In verse 2, teach the older men that they are to be sober-minded, serious, thoughtful, not ridiculous, not out of control, thoughtful, dignified, self-controlled, sound in faith, in love and steadfastness. And likewise, verse 6, urge the young men to have self-control. Why is the instruction so much shorter for the younger guys than the older guys? Well, first off, you notice in verse 1 it says, older men are to be. To be a mature Christian, you are to have these qualities. But you'll never get there if you don't train someone. Start at level 1, self-control. If you never are able to control yourself, you'll never become a dignified person. People that are constantly influenced by other things and constantly shifting and moving are not sound in faith and love and in steadfastness or patience, whatever word you want to use, endurance. They're shallow, they're shifting, they're unsteady. You want to grow up in Christ. You want to fulfill what accords with godliness. You want to grow up as a Christian. It starts with this, self-control. Notice how it starts, though. It started with Paul, and then it goes to Titus, and then it goes to the older men, and then it goes to the younger men. These are things that are to be taught down the chain of the Christian life. I have 3 sons. None of them were born with sophistication and self-control. Neither was I. It's taught by someone. And the pastors are to have these dignified qualities. They are to pass the test in chapter 1. They're to maintain the test in chapter 1. A higher level of accountability than those that they then teach to be dignified, self-controlled, sober, sound in faith, who love their families, who are there for them, who are committed to them, so that they can then teach the next generation of those that are growing up in this. To be self-controlled, to love their families, love their wives, love their children, not abandon them, love the church, love Christ, love the gospel. That's built up in people, and it goes down the chain to those that are neos, that are younger. Not necessarily in age, but in maturity, those that are just not at that stage of life yet. Parents, teach your children. Pastors, teach your people. Older men, teach those that are younger. The verb here that's used, teach the young men, the instruction from the Apostle Paul to Pastor Titus here in verse 6, likewise urge parakaleo, to call alongside, but it's imperative. So it's like, yell at them, like, come on, let's go, guys. Get a battle cry going, let's go. Men, we need to be something. But it starts with this word right here. It's a simple word. It's just a verb of the word wisdom. The older ladies are to equip the younger ladies, to sophronizo them, to equip them to live with sophos, wisdom, sophistication, which results in loving your husband, loving your children, building a home, being kind. Young men, likewise, be sophroneo. It's a verb. It's acting, it's living with sophos, wisdom, sophistication. Why does the Apostle Paul have to tell Pastor Titus to tell the young men to be wise and sophisticated? Because young men are not wise and sophisticated. It's not a natural thing in us. It is something that is called out in us. It is built up in each other. It's something that has to be modeled. It has to be seen. To live, against a verb here, to live or act with wisdom is something that has to grow. It's not just knowledge. It's not just knowing something. I've always just called this a crescent wrench. Apparently, someone came up to me right before second service here and they said, that is a adjustable wrench. Okay, well, that's knowledge. Wisdom might have been waiting until after third service to tell me. Knowledge is knowing what a tool is called. Wisdom is knowing when to use it. Knowledge is knowing how to hit the nail. Wisdom is knowing what to attach to the nail, your foot or the board. Pastor Jeff here at 412 Church says it this way: it is knowledge to know that tomatoes are a fruit. It is wisdom to know that they don't belong in a fruit salad. That's wisdom. That's what he's talking about here. To live with wisdom. It is knowledge to know what the fruit of the flesh and the fruit of the Spirit are in our life. And we've been talking about this the past number of weeks. As a pastor is called to identify these things in chapter 1, to call them out and to rebuke them in some, and then to train the fruit of the Spirit in others. That's what we're looking at here in chapter 2. Self-control, it's right there. It's a noun there, not a verb. It's one thing to know them. It's one thing to believe them, but then to do what accords with godliness, to build them up, to not just call it out in each other, but to identify in each other and encourage in one another, to cultivate in one another goodness. You know, you can be a jerk and say, you were wrong. Or you can cultivate goodness and say, hey, man, that was out of line. That could have been done better. What's going on? Why are you so upset today? How can I help you? How can I pray for you? It's cultivating gentleness and goodness in people. Wisdom is building those things. And if we do not have these qualities, if we don't have goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control, what else do we have? We have all those other things. Division, fits of anger, rivalries. The book of Proverbs says this: all of us want security and stability in our lives. Proverbs 25 says this: a man without self-control is like a city broken into or left without walls. We don't really live in cities with walls anymore. So I'll just use the illustration of a house. How many of you live in a house with no walls? What a ridiculous thought. I guess you could live in a house with no walls, but what's holding the roof up? What's keeping the wind out? What's keeping the AC in as summer approaches? You have to have these elements to a house, to a home, to a city, to a family, to a person. A man without self-control is like a city broken into, left without walls. What is a city in the ancient world without walls? It is vulnerable. It is weak. It is manipulatable. It is coercible. It is ready for destruction. That's why I tell my sons all the time. They can finish the phrase for you if you ask them. Control yourself or someone else will. Son, control yourself so I don't have to. Control yourself, son, so the cop doesn't have to. Control yourself, son, so that your VBS small group leader doesn't have to. And then come tell me, hey, you need to control your son. Control yourself or someone else will, and they will. Someone is going to control your life. Someone is going to be steering you. Every commercial you hear, every time you drive down the road, every billboard you pass, every business that you pass is trying to control you in some way, trying to get you to take action. Usually it's to buy something from them. If you do not have self-control, well, guess what you're going to do? You're going to end up buying something. If you don't have self-control, you're going to end up doing something, and they're going to lead you, they're going to control you, either through deception, seduction, manipulation, coercion, whatever it is, salesmanship. If you will not learn to sophroneo, to live yourself with wisdom, not just knowledge, but sophos, wisdom in life, someone else will control you, and it will be to your destruction. The destruction of your finances, the destruction of your family, the destruction of your faith. You are to control yourself. Teach the Pastor Titus, who's met a bar of maturity, older men who have met a bar of maturity. Teach, train, urge, call the young men to self-control. We need models of that. And one model of that for me around 412 Church, here's my friend Dennis. Those of you that know him know the wisdom with which this man lives. And it's not the color of his tie, as much as I love that tie. That is not what makes this man sophos, sophisticated. This man has not only knowledge of so many things, knowledge that frankly built this building. You're sitting in this building because of that man right there, and many others, but in large part due to that man and his knowledge, because of his faith, because of his faithfulness, because of his commitment, but also, I'll just tell you right now, because of his self-control. I got to work alongside in manual labor with this man for an extended period recently. And I noticed the difference between his living in wisdom and my living in wisdom. When it comes to manual labor and I'm swinging a hammer and stuff, when you hear me say, uh-oh, that's not a good thing. That's me admitting there's a problem and I don't know how to fix it. When that man says, oh boy, Lord have mercy, you have no doubt it's going to get fixed. He's going to figure it out. I'm just going to tell you right now, I'd rather work alongside in any area of manual labor. I'd rather work alongside that 70-year-old man right there than any 30-year-old I've ever met. Because he has not only knowledge, he has self-control, he has wisdom. He's going to figure it out. He's going to be a blessing to you while he does it, most likely too, which is not something I can always say about myself. We need models of these things. So, young men, in what ways are you to control yourself? Well, there's lots of ways, but I'm just going to give you 3 real quick. Number 1, young men, control yourself in your anger. As I've spent 15 years in pastoral ministry now, as I've lived 36 years in a man's body, as I've watched 3 little boys grow up in my life, there's a stereotype, there's a generality, there's certain things that men tend to struggle with. Very common one is our anger, our temperament, our ability to restrain the explosion of what's been bottled in for so long. Sometimes that's because of pressure from work. Sometimes it's just because we are short-tempered children that just got older, whatever it is. Men, control your anger. You will not have a healthy life. You will not have a healthy family. You will not have a healthy church until you learn to control yourself in the area of anger. It is wisdom to do this. When I was a young man, my father identified that flaw in me very, very early. And so Proverbs 29:11 is a key verse in my life. A fool loses his temper, but a wise man holds it back. I had to learn that at like 3 years old. And I repeated it many, many, many times. It is wisdom to learn to control your anger. Proverbs 16 says it this way: whoever is slow to anger is better than a mighty warrior. And we love that thought, right? Certain music comes on. My sons and I, when we're out working in the yard, we got a certain playlist of songs that we listen to. They kind of help us swing a hammer more manly. We just kind of go with the beat. And there's just this thing like makes us feel like men sometimes. Every man wants to be that guy, that hero, that mighty warrior, that one who conquers a city, the one who wins the NBA Finals, the one who wins the World Series, the one who wins the Super Bowl. We want to be that guy. You know what? That's a good thing. Focused, godly ambition is a good thing. But what's better is to be able to control your own spirit, to restrain yourself. And people that figure that out, that figure out that wisdom, are better than people that have great careers. I've told you the story a number of times of an interview I watched with Kobe Bryant one time where he was asked, does it bother you how much you can't control in the game? And he said, absolutely not. I can control the one thing that matters. I can control myself, and most people can't, and that's why I'm a champion. That was wisdom from a champion, one who conquered a city, one who was mighty in his arena of life. He was able to control himself, and so he recognized, I can be something that most people can't. What would it look like if we as Christian men had that attitude? I can control myself. How different would our families be? How different would our churches be? How different would this nation be if Christian men were able to control their own temperament? Ladies, I'll ask you the same thing. How different would our churches be if Christian women could do the same? It's not just wisdom for them, it's wisdom for all of us. Men, control your words as well. Often our anger is expressed not only in our physical actions, but in our words. That's usually where it starts. It's expressed in that way, and it comes out so easily. If you go to the book of James, chapter 3, more than half of the chapter is devoted to the thought of our words, how we speak to one another. And the illustration that James uses of the power of our words is like a fire, how a little spark starts this massive firestorm. And we here in California understand that, don't we? It only takes one match. It only takes one transformer that's sparking. It only takes one person to burn down a city. And we face that year after year after year. It only takes one spark, one person to destroy a family. It only takes one spark, one person, one slander, one gossip, one lie to destroy a church, to destroy a community, to destroy a city, destroy a nation. Control your words. Again, proverbial wisdom. Proverbs 10:19 is one that's always kind of stuck in my mind. When words are many, sin is not lacking. And so whoever restrains his own lips is wise. Now, some people think if they talk more, they must be wise. If they talk more than the other person, they must be smarter than the other person. A study was done a while back. I can't remember who did the study. Of leaders and what temperaments they have, what actions they have. And there was this panel that was put together, and they asked people Do leaders talk more or listen more? And everyone thinks of a leader as one who talks more. It's not. Leader is one who listens more. But when they talk, you had better listen. There's been moments of my life where I've learned that. Usually it's because I'm talking too much. One time an older man told me, if you shut your mouth, mosquitoes won't get in. We were at camp, so he had a point there. I was in another situation with a group of men. There were about 25 of us there, and there was kind of a point of tension, and the whole group was kind of discussing it, and there was this talk going back and forth, and it was a casual situation, like we're all just kind of friends talking together, but we all knew there was this thing happening, and so I was trying to ask about it, and there's just a lot of talk. And I noticed over to my right, there was a man sitting there who wasn't saying anything, and I didn't know him well at that point. I just watched. And about 15 minutes into this, everyone's talking, how you doing, how's the life, you're eating pizza and all that kind of stuff. And as this issue of tension kept being talked about, I just kept watching this one individual. He wasn't saying anything. Then all of a sudden, he cleared his throat. And the whole room just went quiet. I don't know why. But that room recognized that what this man had to say was probably something worth listening to. And he had said the least of everyone in that room. And on that occasion, it was very good. None of us are perfect. None of us can do that all the time. None of us have that aura, vibe in every area of life. But once in a while, you see it. There are people who think everyone else needs to hear everything that they're thinking about. That is foolishness. Young men, we can absolutely be like that, can't we? We think that if we just say enough, if we say it loud enough, if we get everyone's attention on us, if we just say the dumbest thing, the most ridiculous thing, then everyone's going to like us. No, they're probably not. Wisdom is to restrain yourself until you have something worth saying. If you don't have something worth saying, then just be quiet. Listen. So when the time comes, you know what to say. Not just dump whatever you have to say. Young men, control your anger, control your words, and control your passions. How different would our churches be, our families be, our marriages be, our country, our world, if just Christian men, let's just narrow it to Christian men, if Christian men controlled their anger, their words, and their passions. If just Christian men did that, we would have a different world. If we weren't such hypocrites, if we weren't such children that just got older and hairier, our world, our churches, our families would be different. Urge the young man to live with wisdom in regards to your passions. Passions can be all sorts of different things. Young men are passionate about all kinds of stuff. Video games, sports. Sometimes it's just food. Again, proverbial wisdom, Proverbs 25. If you find honey, eat only enough for you, lest you have your fill and vomit it out. Ever heard the old saying, you can never have too much of a good thing? It's lies. Water's a good thing, but you can also drown in it. Food is a good thing, but you can also stuff yourself and be gluttonous, which the Bible calls an abomination before God. One of the 7 deadly sins, gluttony. The Bible says that wine is a good thing. It's actually described as a gift that God has given to men to gladden their hearts. But drunkenness is debauchery. Lack of self-control in gifts from God is evil. Honey is a wonderful thing. Back then they didn't have M&Ms, they didn't have Reese's Pieces. They had honey. And when you found it, the temptation is to gorge yourself. Don't. Take what you need, enjoy it, be thankful, control yourself, walk with wisdom. Man, I was out with my wife last night, and she bought me a Nutella-filled chocolate chip cookie. It was like this big. It was wonderful. And I enjoyed it. She bought herself another big chocolate chip cookie. And of course, I finished mine. And she didn't finish hers. And then she hands me hers. Of course, I finish it because, yeah. And then later in the evening, she buys me a piece of chocolate cake. And of course, I ate it because it's there. Control yourself so you don't live in agony the rest of the evening and into the morning. Young men, control your passions. Control your sexuality. Especially in our culture. Our culture is constantly throwing sexual temptation at men. Ladies, if you're married to a man, we're going to be looking at this next week. One of your primary functions as a wife is to protect your man from these very things, just as it's his job to protect you. Notice what this says, 1 Thessalonians chapter 4. This is the will of God. People ask me all the time, what is God's will for my life? I have no idea if you mean like what car you're going to buy, what house you're going to live in, who you're going to marry. I have no idea. But I know this. Every time you find that phrase in the Bible, you might want to circle it. You might want to study real hard to identify what it's talking about. This is the will of God for you, your sanctification. It's a big fancy blueprint engineering word for growing up. You're growing in holiness. Sanctif means holiness. Something that is sanctified, something that is holy, something that's set apart. Growing in your sanctification, your godliness, your Christian character. This is the will of God for you, that you would grow up, that you abstain from sexual immorality, that each of you know how to control his own body in holiness and honor, not in the passions of lust like the Gentiles who do not know God. And note this in verse 8, whoever disregards this disregards God, not men. You might want to know what those things are. That word there, sexual immorality, 2 words in English, at least in the ESV translation, is the Greek term porneia, and refers to the sexual perversions that we see in the Old Testament. It's particularly the books of Leviticus and the books of Deuteronomy. And on Wednesday nights, we've recently been doing that. We're going to be wrapping up our study in the book of Deuteronomy here in just a couple weeks. But in both those books, God details for us what kind of sexual relationships and sexual conduct are unacceptable to him. The Old Testament word for God's view of those things was toeva, abominations, unacceptable, disgusting to God. In the New Testament, you have this word that's used to refer to all of them, the word porneia. It is God's will that you don't do that. You better know what that is. And the Bible is not unclear as to what those things are. How different would our churches be? How different would our families be? How different would our country and our world be if Christian men learned to control themselves and to walk in godly wisdom in their sexuality, in what they looked at on their phones and on their TVs, in how they cohabitated with their girlfriends or didn't, in how they slept around with anyone that would be willing to jump in bed with them. How different, how healthier would our churches be, and what different impact would we have on our world if we actually fulfilled God's will for our life in this one area? Be very different. Very healthier. But that requires self-control. Young men, have self-control. It's my job to exhort you to do that, but notice that's just verse 6. How about verse 7 and 8? It says then show yourself to be the model of these things, good works. Verse 7 shifts in its who it's talking about. Verse 6 is talking to Pastor Titus, teach the young men to be these things. But then verse 7 shifts. The pronouns shift from plural things, teach them to be and do these things. It shifts back to the singular. Now you, Titus, show yourself to be the model of these things. Pastor, you're going to get up there and tell everyone to be these things, to have self-control, to have dignity, to have sincerity, to have honesty, to love your wife, to love your children, to train them. You better be doing it. Or I'm talking about you. Show yourself in every respect to be a model of the things that you are supposed to teach them to be. A model of good works. And in your teaching, show integrity, dignity, and sound speech that cannot be condemned. If a pastor is going to get up and tell you to be these things, he better be them. You as parents have a job to teach your children to grow up and to be and not be certain things. We've all heard the old phrase, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Do what I say, not what I do. There is nothing less biblical than that phrase. Be what I model for you. It starts with pastors to the church, starts with parents to their children. We are to be these things in our work. Notice the word there, work, be a model of good work, and in your teaching. It's one thing to say it on Sunday, but then you got to live it the rest of the week. And none of us do that perfectly. But again, sanctification. This is God's will for you. Sanctification, growing up, what accords with godliness. We're growing up into these things. Each one of us ought to be growing. None of us are ever going to be perfect before God in this world. None of us. That's why we're growing. That's why you have the warnings. That's why you have the instructions. Be these things. Show them. Notice the word there, model and show. Show integrity. Show dignity. Show sound speech that cannot be condemned. That is hard to do when you have chapter 1. By the way, as a pastor, to show integrity, dignity, and sound speech that cannot be condemned, because chapter 1 also tells me as a pastor to do this. There are many, verse 10, who are insubordinate, empty talkers, deceivers, especially those of the circumcision party. They must be silenced, for they are upsetting whole families. And then in verse 13, therefore rebuke them sharply that they may be sound in the faith. How do you rebuke someone sharply with sound speech that cannot be condemned? Because there's always someone who sees a sword when you're trying to offer help, when you're trying to say, hey, here, we need to do better at this. Hey, that could have been said better. Hey, you look like you were upset when you said that thing. Let's figure this out and let's go apologize to this person that you just offended. Like, that's a hard thing to navigate. Hard thing as a pastor, hard thing as a parent. To discipline my child, but not to, Paul uses the word, to not provoke your children to anger. I'll just tell you, you discipline your children at all, they get angry with you. Pastor, you rebuke anyone, you correct anyone, they're going to be angry with you, and they will condemn you. The question is, will it stick? A pastor must be able to rebuke. He must be willing to do so sharply, whether with one blade or two blades. Sometimes it takes two blades. But to be able to do so and to do so well, Paul tells Pastor Timothy in 2 Timothy chapter 2 that the Lord's servant must be able to rebuke his opponents, to correct his opponents with gentleness, with kindness toward everyone, patiently enduring evil. How we lead our children, how we lead a church, how we lead those that are under our direction, our authority, our mentorship, whatever it is, how we do it matters as well. You know what? It also matters how you receive it. I have my job, and you have yours. I would encourage you, and hopefully in the near future, we're actually going to be doing this. We're going to do a study through Proverbs on the issue of receiving a rebuke. The wisdom of being able to hear a righteous person, someone of dignity, of character, of quality, of integrity, who has demonstrated that, then coming to me and saying, there's something I need to work on, and the wisdom, the maturity to be able to receive that and do it. You find that not only through the Proverbs, but also Psalm 141, written by King David, says this, let a righteous man strike me, for it is a kindness, and let him rebuke me, for it is an oil for my head, and let my head not refuse it. What an amazing word from a man who was a killer, a murderer, an adulterer, as well as many other things. And yet God calls him a man after his own heart. How could David be a man after God's own heart, being all those things? Because when he was rebuked by the prophet Nathan in his sexual perversion, his porneia, his toeva, when he was rebuked, when he was called out, he repented. He didn't try to hide it and try to play games. Well, she did this, he did that. No. You're right. I'm wrong. That's the man who wrote these words, let a righteous man strike me. Proverbs says that the kisses, the wounds of a friend are better than the kisses of an enemy. Someone who actually cares about you is going to tell you what you don't want to hear. The problem is they're going to tell you to your face. An enemy is not going to tell you what you don't want to hear to your face. They're going to tell it to someone else's face behind your back. Wisdom is to receive a rebuke from someone, and sometimes that's difficult because sometimes you're receiving that from someone who's younger than you. Someone maybe that you mentored, someone that you led. Man, we as parents, do we ever want to hear our kids tell us the truth? about our faults? No, that's really hard. That's really difficult for us as parents to accept that from our children as we do that day after day after day with them. But once in a while they're right. Wisdom is to be able to receive that. You're right, son. I'm sorry. You're right. I was angry. You're right. Those words were unfair. They were too much. And I'm sorry. That is wisdom. And as a pastor is able to do this, and as he models this for the church, notice he says, be a model of good works. Show yourself, show your integrity, your dignity, and your sound speech and what you teach. Who's he teaching? The church. To be something. Kent Hughes, in his commentary on that verse 7, says it this way, that there should be a multiplication of silencers as the godly influence of Titus spreads among the young men. What does he mean, silencers? He's referring back to chapter 1, verse 11, where the pastor's job is to silence those who teach incorrectly, those who are divisive and insubordinate, empty talkers, deceivers. You know what? The pastor's job is to do that, but it's also his job to equip you to be able to do that, because I can't be everywhere. Pastor Jeff can't be everywhere. Pastor Skylar can't be everywhere. Pastor Dennis can't be everywhere. Pastor Moises can't be everywhere. We can't be in your homes. We can't be with your kids. We can't be in your life groups. We can't be in your small groups. But eventually, as we grow up together, as the leaders, healthy leaders exemplify what they are to be to the church, we become older men and older women, reverent in behavior, dignified, self-controlled. And as other people see that and observe that, not only in the pastor, but in the congregation, they grow up too. And as your kids see it in you as parents, they grow up in that too. So eventually there becomes a multiplication of those who are capable and ready to silence the empty talkers, the deceivers. It might be in your home. It might be in your relationship. It might just be with your kids. It's such a blessing in my life when I see parents correct their own kids. so I don't have to. That's so tough to do that well. I'm a parent. I get it. Like, you're in the store and the kid's like screaming because you said no. The easy thing is to give them what they want so they be quiet and they stop embarrassing you. Thank you to every parent that I've seen not do that. Because you do that once, you're going to do it again, and you're going to do it again, and they're going to keep getting older, and they're going to keep getting stronger, they're going to keep getting louder, and eventually either I'm going to have to deal with them or a cop's going to have to deal with them, society's going to have to deal with them. Parents, thank you for saying no and following through. I am far more embarrassed for you when you cave. Don't cave. Consistency, faithfulness. Teach them what they are to be. Pastor can't do all that. The church has to eventually do it. They are to grow into a life of good works. That's what Jesus died for. It's what Paul's ministry was about. It's what Titus was supposed to teach, because there are those that, though they profess to know God, they deny him by their works. They are unfit. That is not to be us. When your kid starts screaming at the store, you should not be calling Pastor John. Come fix my kid. I'm not going to come. I'm going to say, that's your job. Bye. Boop. You are to grow in these things. And when people do, you better appreciate them. Pastors that do well, parents that do well, churches that do well in training, in leading, in modeling these things for our people, so that we become these things. Why? Last question, why? The answer is there in chapter 2, verse 8. So that, there's another hina clause there, so that an opponent may be put to shame, having nothing evil to say about you. Just know this, evil people are going to say things about you no matter what. Someone says something bad about you, doesn't mean you're wrong. Doesn't mean you did it wrong. But maybe you did. And you need to have the humility to evaluate that honestly. But here's the real test. Does it stick? When a pastor or a parent or a Christian in general, when we speak well, when we live well, and then something evil is said about us, that's going to happen. Welcome to life, adults. But does it stick? Do those that have these qualities, this maturity, this reasonableness, when they look at you, are they saying, yep, that makes sense? Or no, I don't believe that. Does it stick or not? People are going to say whatever they want. That's why Paul tells Titus's counterpart, Timothy, in 2 Timothy, part of what's called the pastor's commission there in 2 Timothy chapter 4. This is the end of it. There's 9 directives for a pastor. These are the last several ones. He says this, but as for you, Timothy, always be sober-minded. just like the older men are supposed to be, serious, thoughtful. Endure suffering, do the work of an evangelist, fulfill your ministry. Notice that, how you think, how you endure, how you work, and how you end. Friends, all of us are temporary. The question is not whether people say things about us or not. The question is, how do we end? Do we fulfill our ministry, whatever that is? Maybe it's just with our kids. Maybe it's with a small group. Maybe it's with the whole church. Do we fulfill it well? Do we fulfill it well? There are people that do that well. One that comes to mind is Pastor Dennis. Pastor Dennis Cromwell for 14 years has cared for you, loved you, shepherded you, taught you, led you in worship from this stage and from many others. He shepherded our seniors ministry Wednesday after Wednesday after Wednesday, year after year after year. Has done well. Not only that, but I mentioned a couple weeks ago, not just 14 years here at 412 Church, but 53 years next month of faithfulness to his wife, Nancy. Those that do well. Go for it. Those that do well are worth honoring. But friends, again, remember, all of us are temporary. Our marriages are temporary. Having our kids under our roof is temporary. Every pastor is temporary. Every church is temporary. So treasure each other while you have each other and honor those that do well. A while back, Pastor Dennis came to me and Pastor Mark and said, it's time for me to fulfill my ministry at 412 Church. So here in the next few weeks, he'll be wrapping up his time here on staff with us. But I want you to hear that from me because I want to tell you, this is a man that has done it well. 14 years here, 12 years at Calvary Chapel Hemet, 12 years at Revival, and years before that in Costa Mesa and all over Southern California. Here is a man and a woman, a husband and a wife, a pastor and his companion that have done it well. They have fulfilled their ministry. And when you see that, there is sorrow when we can't always be together. But there is joy in seeing those that do well. Honor such people. I want to give you the opportunity to do that for Pastor Dennis and his wife, Nancy. I'm going to invite you to two things. Number one, next Sunday, they're going to be on the stage with me, all three services, and we have gifts for them that I'm going to be presenting to them. I'm going to thank them for their time here, and I want to give you the opportunity to thank them in each of those services for their 14 years of faithfulness and love for you. The love for this church will not go away, though their time on staff may be. Their love for each other does not go away, though 53 years is a good run. All of us are temporary. Next Sunday, be here. I want to ask you and to celebrate those that fulfill their ministry well. Then that Wednesday on May 27th, we're going to be finishing the book of Deuteronomy, the end of Moses' 40-year ministry for the people of Israel. And after we conclude that study together, we're going to have a gratitude celebration. We're going to have ice cream out here on the courtyard. I want you to come and give them a hug. Tell them how much you appreciate them. Tell them how they blessed you. Bless them in the years ahead as they seek to care for one another and care for their family at the next stage of life. All of us get there eventually. Will we fulfill our ministry and will we do well in those final stages? When we see someone do well, honor them. But it takes training. What are the old ladies supposed to do for the young ladies? Train them, equip them. What are the older men, pastors supposed to do for the young men? Urge them, parakaleo, call them alongside. Man, let's do it. Let's go together. These are not natural things. We are not naturally sophisticated, self-controlled, dignified, honest people. We have to see that in others. Train that in your children. Train that in your church family. Thank you to our VBS volunteers who are going to be doing that. When you have opportunity, honor men, honor women that do it well. And I want to give you an opportunity. I want you to pull your phone out right now because Father's Day is coming up and we're going to have our Fatherhood Impact Award on June 21st. That's Father's Day. And this link right here, this QR code, is going to take you to our nomination form. As you have a man, a husband, a father in your life, or maybe you know one here at 412 Church who has done it well, I'm going to ask you to participate in giving those awards on Father's Day by going to that link and filling out that recommendation form. Because I can't be everywhere. You see things that I don't. These questions are going to be very mature questions about someone. But if they've passed the test well, it's your opportunity to recognize them. And as we get those nominations in and as we evaluate them as a pastoral staff, we're then going to be selecting a few men to be honored in that way on Father's Day. So there's your opportunity to honor someone that has done it well, whether it's your father, your husband, or someone else's. It's open to everyone. Except, just want you to know this: the staff here at 412 Church is ineligible for this award. So I won't be getting it. Pastor Skyler won't be getting it. Pastor Jeff won't be getting it. And you know what? That's okay. It's okay when other people are honored, even if you are not. It's part of growing up. It's part of being sober-minded and dignified, to celebrate when someone else is recognized, even if you are not. There's an opportunity for that. Pastor Dennis on the 27th, this link here will take you to the nomination for Father's Day Awards. Treasure such men. Honor them. Give them a hug. Give them a high five. Tell them well done. Tell them, hey, you did a great job today. I saw you love your kids. I saw you control your anger, control your words. Well done. Treasure those men because they are rare and they are temporary. And men, be such men. Your families need such men. Your church needs such men. Your country needs such men. Your world needs such men. Don't wait for someone else. You be such men. The instructions are here if we will but obey them. Would you pray with me? Father, thank you for your grace. Grace that we read there in Titus 2 has appeared for all people, teaching us to deny ungodliness and then to live a certain way, to be something. Father, forgive us for not living up to that, for our failure, for our caving to temptation, our failure in caving to the pressures of our selfishness, our desire to be acknowledged, our desire to be liked by people. And so we don't restrain our words, we don't restrain our anger, we don't restrain our passions. Father, forgive us for that. Convict us. And Lord, bring people around us, older, mature, godly people, men and women who can lead us, who can guide us, who can direct us. Give us the humility to receive their instruction. We say we are Christians. We say that we have come to salvation before a holy God by faith in the Son that he has provided, whose death was for me. Father, may we live up to that claim. We read there in Titus 2 that Jesus died to acquire for himself a people who are zealous for good works, good lives, living well with wisdom. May that be true of us. And when people say evil things, may it not stick because it's not true. Father, forgive us. Equip us. Convict us. Train us. Build us. Father, thank you for raising up people throughout our lives that have done that for us. May we honor them and treasure them. May we be such men and women, we pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Friends, each one of us need to grow up into that. And so if you have something to confess, if you just want to ask for help, just know that we're here for you. We're going to have a team up front here. You can reach out to us at the office all week long. We are here for you. We want you to be such men and such women. Just know that. And as we sing this last song, be such people.